If you walk through Corona, Queens today, you're immediately hit by a global symphony. The number 7 train rumbles overhead, street vendors call out, and you hear a blend of languages from all over the world, especially from Latin America. It's a neighborhood that feels like the modern definition of New York City's melting pot. But have you ever wondered where that name Corona even comes from? The story is a fascinating tangle of real estate ambition and immigrant pride. And to really get Corona, you have to understand the story of Italians who helped build it, family by family, and how the name became a perfect, if coincidental, fit for them. This is the story of how a neighborhood once called West Flushing was transformed. It's a story about a struggle, pride, and the lasting legacy of an immigrant community that made Corona their own. To get to the story of Italian Corona, we first have to go back to the mid-1800s. Before the brick houses and bustling streets, this area was known as West Flushing, and it was mostly salt marshes, farmland, and meadows. Just a handful of families lived a quiet rural life here, a world away from Manhattan's chaos. The first big change came in 1854 with the New York and Flushing Railroad. Suddenly, this sleepy part of Queens was connected, and where you build tracks, people and money always follow. Developers started eyeing the open land, seeing neat little plots for families who wanted a fresh start. The area even got a little famous for hosting a horse racing track and some of the very first baseball games where people paid to watch. Still, development was slow. For a time, the area was right next door to the infamous Valley of Ashes, a massive dumping ground for the city's refuse, a grim, gray landscape that F. Scott Fitzgerald would later make famous in The Great Gatsby. It would take a huge vision and thousands of new hands to turn those ashes into a real community. That vision came from developers. As New York City's population exploded, companies swooped to turn farmland into neighborhoods. But how did Corona get its name? There are a few theories. The most widely accepted story is that a developer named Thomas Waite Howard, who became postmaster in 1872, thought the area was the crown of Queens County and petitioned for the name change. Another story suggests the name came from the Crown Building Company, which was putting up houses in the area. But as waves of Italian immigrants began settling here, the name took on a powerful new meaning. The word for crown in Italian is, of course, Corona. For these newly arrived families, leaving the packed tenements of Manhattan for a brand new house was a monumental achievement. It was a symbol of their new life and a source of incredible pride. So while they may not have named the neighborhood, the name resonated with them. They were moving to the crown, and it perfectly described their own crowning achievement. The turn of the 20th century saw millions of Southern and Eastern Europeans coming to America for a better life. Among them were nearly 3.5 million Italians, mostly from the impoverished South, known as Mezzogiorno. They were escaping poverty and looking for work in a booming America. Many landed first in cramped tenements in Manhattan's Little Italy or East Harlem. But the ultimate dream wasn't a 5-story walk-up. It was owning a piece of land, having a home in a small yard, and breathing fresh air. This is what made the new development in Queens so irresistible. The brick homes in Corona offered a real step up. A family could own their own house, plant a garden, a sense of permanence that was impossible in the city. This move to Corona was a classic example of campanilissimo, a powerful idea in Italian culture. It's the intense loyalty to your specific village or town, your bell tower. As families from the same Italian villages settled in Corona, they brought that spirit with them. They weren't just anonymous immigrants. They were Neapolitans, Sicilians, and Calabrians, rebuilding their tight-knit communities on new soil. The area around 108th Street and Corona Avenue, once called Corona Heights, became the heart of this new Italian-American world. An Italian community is so much more than just a bunch of houses. It's a living, breathing network. In Corona, that network exploded. Following the spirit of campanilissimo, they built institutions to preserve their culture and support one another. Churches like St. Leo's became the social and spiritual glue of the neighborhood. Mutual aid societies popped up, offering a vital safety net if a family member got sick or lost a job. And of course, there were the businesses. Italian-owned bakeries, butcher shops, and groceries lined 108th Street and the nearby avenues. These were more than just stores. They were social hubs where you could hear the dialects of the old world and feel connected. Nothing captures the social life of Italian Corona better than the small triangular park officially named William F. Moore Park. But for generations, everyone has known it by its other name, Spaghetti Park. This wasn't just a patch of grass. It was an open-air community center that got its nickname from the neighborhood's deep Italian-American roots. This is where men gathered after work for passionate games of bocce, a tradition carried straight from Italy. The park even has 2 dedicated bocce courts, a permanent sign of how central the game was. Spaghetti Park became so iconic, it was even immortalized in a children's book. By the mid-20th century, Italian-American Corona was in its golden age. Generations have now grown up on these streets, creating a unique Italian-American identity rooted in Queens. And out of this era came iconic businesses that are still standing today, living links to that history. You just can't tell the story of Corona without talking about the Lemon Ice King. Founded in 1944 by an Italian immigrant, Nicola Benferramo. It started like so many great businesses, out of a garage. He and his son, Peter, perfected their recipe for Italian ice, a treat that traces its roots to Sicilian granita. The result was a dessert that's perfectly creamy without any dairy at all. In 1964, they opened the storefront on 108th Street and Corona Avenue that remains a landmark. The Lemon Ice King became a local institution, made world famous when it was featured in the opening credits of the sitcom The King of Queens. Just a short walk away is another cornerstone, Leo's Latticini, known to absolutely everyone as Mama's. Opened around 1920, this family-owned deli is legendary for its fresh homemade mozzarella and classic Italian sandwiches. The nickname Mama's came from the matriarch Nancy de Bentitis, a beloved community figure who was always helping neighbors or giving food to local firefighters. She was everyone's mama, and the name stuck, a perfect symbol of the shop's warmth. Today, run by the family's 5th generation, Mama's is a delicious, direct connection to the neighborhood's past. Like all New York City neighborhoods, Corona is always evolving. Starting in the 1950s, the area's demographics began to shift. Many Italian-American families, now a few generations in and more prosperous, started moving to the suburbs of Queens and Long Island. As they moved out, new groups moved in. A large African-American community grew, making Corona a hub for jazz legends like Louis Armstrong and Dizzy Gillespie. Then, starting in the 1960s and picking up steam over the decades, waves of immigration from Latin America transformed the neighborhood again. People from the Dominican Republic, Mexico, Ecuador, and Colombia came looking for the same thing the Italians had: a new start and a chance for a better life. Today, Corona is a vibrant tapestry woven from many cultures and is one of the most diverse places on the planet, with huge communities from both Latin America and Asia living side by side. But the Italian past has not been erased. It's become a foundational layer of the neighborhood's identity, and that legacy lives on. If this slice of New York's history was your kind of story, please hit that subscribe button and ring a bell for more. We have so many more of the city's stories to uncover. And let us know in the comments what neighborhood's history we should explore next. So, the next time you're in Corona walking down 108th Street, take a moment, look past the modern buzz, and listen for the echoes of the past. You'll see it in the name William F. Moore Park, still called Spaghetti Park by those in the know. You'll taste it in a lemon ice from the King or mozzarella sandwich from Mama's. And most importantly, you'll see it in the name of the neighborhood itself, Corona. The Crown, a name that became a permanent monument to the pride of the Italian immigrants who saw this part of Queens not as a valley of ashes, but as their own crowning achievement, a place to build a family, a community, and a future. Their legacy is baked into the very bricks of the neighborhood, a vital chapter in the endless epic of New York City.